He's trying to get night,
Irene.
I'm addicted to the thrill. It's a dangerous love affair. Can't be scared when it goes down. Got a problem? Tell me now. Only thing that's on my mind is who's gonna run this town tonight.
It's now time for the Natural State Sports Podcast with Michael Carnahan, Aaron, and Mike Pettis, where we take the biggest sports headlines across the spectrum that is sports, and we break it down for you, the fan. It's coming at you in just a moment.
Dave Roberts. Back to running circles round niggas, now we squared up. Hold up.
Life's a game, but it's not fair.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another great episode of the Natural State Sports Podcast. I am Money Mike, and I'll be joined shortly by Mr. Mike Pettis here on this week's episode. Of course, I want a few house cleaning measures that I want to get into a little bit of. We actually now can be listened to audio-only versions on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, just about anywhere you can find your audio podcasts. You can find Podcast Network 49. So definitely excited about that and excited about the topics we have here today going on. We're going to talk a little bit about LeBron James, the road to Omaha, the NBA playoffs, Cole Beasley, Kemba Walker, Anderson the Spider Silva, and of course the upcoming NFL season. But with that being said, let's wait no longer. Let's bring in my co-host, Mr. Mike Pettis. Pettis, how you doing this week, brother?
I couldn't be better, man. How about yourself?
Hey, I mean, minus that fiasco on Monday, I'm doing pretty good, brother.
Yeah, me and you both, my man.
Let's get right into it, and let's have let's sit here and watch this clip from ESPN on Chris Paul.
Chris Paul has been sidelined indefinitely due to league COVID-19 health and safety protocols. So, Monica, what is your reaction to this news?
Well, the first reaction, Charlie, is that you hope that this is not, or you hope rather that this is an asymptomatic case for Chris and that he is well, right? Like, we still have to keep the human element in mind in this, and we're still losing Americans to this horrible disease. So first of all, you hope that Chris is 100% going to make a full recovery and be well. And then the second part of it, give me the calendar. I believe if the series that they're waiting on goes to Game 7, they wouldn't play until Tuesday. From what I understand, Malika Andrews reporting this morning that CP3 is vaccinated, and that should shorten the time within this protocol. But immediately, you're looking at the calendar. When can Chris Paul get back on the floor to go alongside his brethren in this Phoenix Sun squad? This is, and this is no breaking news, a drastically different unit if you take away the experience, the leadership, the floor general that Chris Paul has been to this squad. And then, of course, for all of us that have watched Chris for years and years get to the playoffs and have the worst timely injuries or now a COVID diagnosis, I mean, you absolutely hate to see this. So first thing up in my mind is his health. The second thing is, when can he get back on the floor? I think if he misses a game, that's a little bit different than if we're talking 3 games. So you hope that he can get back on the floor, and then you hate to see these kind of breaks for Chris, man. We're right here. We're finally getting to see the promise.
Mm-hmm. Monica, I echo everything you said, and the word that came to mind when I heard about this was snake bit. Because I remember something like this happening to a guy named Patrick Ewing of the New York Knicks. Not to the level, of course, of dealing with COVID-19, but how many times was Patrick Ewing snake bit throughout his whole career? He ran into the Detroit Pistons early, then the Chicago Bulls. Then when he finally had that team with Allen Houston and Latrell Sprewell and Marcus Camby, he breaks his ankle in a playoff series. They wind up losing in 5 games to the San Antonio Spurs in a strike-shortened season. We don't know if Patrick Ewing would have helped the Knicks win a victory, but the chance would have been a lot better with a healthy Patrick Ewing. That's what reminds me of this situation when it comes to Chris Paul. And you're exactly right. I'm more concerned about the person being healthy and people around him being healthy more than anything else. But for the first time ever in his career, he had the squad, a mixture of youth and also experience. all of that in Chris Paul and Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, the coach with Monty Williams. They were the healthiest team of anybody left standing in the NBA playoffs. And now you have this situation creeping with a guy that not only is your leader, but he was one hell of a damn closer in the series against the Denver Nuggets. When they needed somebody to go get it, Chris Paul's able to go get it. And that's not to say that Devin Booker can't, or campaign definitely can't. You can't put that kind of pressure on him. But whatever this indefinite absence is going to be, is going to affect the Phoenix Suns, because whenever he gets back, remember, he can't practice with the team. He can't be around the team at all. So whatever continuity and chemistry you've been able to develop outside of games, that's going to be lessened a little bit. I can't remember a more snake bit NBA player since Patrick Ewing, and that guy has become Chris Paul. So, Monica, you're exactly right in terms of the person first, but we live on planet Earth. This really affects the Phoenix Suns on and off the basketball court. How they deal with that and when he comes back, or who knows, that's going to be the interesting answer. I'm looking to see how they're going to deal with this setback with a team that was looking very, very strong to get to the NBA Finals and represent the West in the NBA Finals.
Well, that's my next question, because he is out indefinitely, but should he be out for the following series, how far can the Suns go, Monica?
Ooh, Charlie, do we have to go there? Do we have to think about that? I mean,
we have to speculate.
If either of the teams, I mean,
Okay, that's pretty much enough context for what we want to discuss. We'll get into Chris Paul and the series coming up here in a little bit, but I want to bring up, we got to this topic from a screenshot of a LeBron James tweet. He took to Twitter, not a stranger to Twitter is LeBron James, but he says, They didn't want to listen to me about the start of the season. I knew exactly what would happen. I only wanted to protect the well-being of the players, which ultimately is the product and benefit of our game. These injuries aren't just part of the game. It's the lack of pure rim rest. Before starting back up, 8, possibly 9 All-Stars have missed playoff games, most in league history. This is the best time of year for our league, and fans are missing out on a ton of our favorite players. It's insane. If there's one person that knows about the body and how it works all year round, it's me. I speak for the health of all of our players, and I hate to see this many injuries this time of year. Sorry, fans. Wish you guys were seeing all of your favorite guys right now. And let's kind of get into that. I mean, Chris Paul goes down. That's COVID potentially. But LeBron James dealt with many injuries this season. Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard possibly tore his ACL recently. I mean, the list is growing of injuries, and I can't help but agree with LeBron James on this. This really is a direct reflection of the amount of time between the end of last season and the beginning of this season. I see the correlation he's making.
Right. You, Aaron, and myself talked about it off the show, off the air, you know, how the early start of and lack of rest, you know, for these key, you know, NBA players has gotten us to where we are now, where we have a vast number of injuries. It's definitely not good for the game from the standpoint. Don't nobody want to watch the second and third string, you know, in the NBA playoffs, especially deep in the playoffs. With that being said, it is what it is from the standpoint. No one can control COVID or the simple fact that it happened. So with that being said, they did the best they could, you know, with the bubble, with the season ending in early October. It should have been pushed back a little later, but Mike, we got to remember it's about the bottom dollar.
That's true.
A lot of money, you know, the previous season, you know, and they're trying to make up for it. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to hear it, but you sacrifice your product, which is the players at the same time. Because truth be told, it's hard to play at extreme high level after just a short amount of rest, man. You know, it's been proven. You know,
I mean, there's no preseason. There's no, you know, Vegas. There's none of that. You're looking at this, and I mean, why not push it back to why not push the start back to the end of December at least? Like something, give the players some sort of feasible rest. The NFL, you get from the end of, let's say you make the Super Bowl. From the end of the Super Bowl, you have a good 2-month period before you start spring practice. And then you have another lull into training camp. I hesitate to say that this isn't on exactly what you say. It's a money move by the NBA. I believe it's going to cause issues whenever they come back to the collective bargaining agreement here in a few years, because the NBA Players Association is probably going to make this one of their forefront issues.
Now, true, Mike. Now, to play devil's advocate here, it was a break during COVID. Now, it was an uncomfortable break because we don't know if players had COVID or if they were dealing with COVID within their families. We know they didn't touch many basketballs or were able to work out on a normal schedule as they would be if they were in season or in a regular off season.
Right.
Okay, that's a fact. Another fact is that, it was just the unknown. They didn't know what was going to happen. You had the mental aspect of it too. So who wanted to pick up a ball and work out? You were worried about, sheer survival. So, that's probably a fact. But at the same time, man, it's half full and half empty because, you did get somewhat of a rest. True enough, it was uncomfortable. All teams, like Aaron said, I'm going to give him credit, did not play to the very end of the season. Some didn't even make the bubble, if you will. So, we know it's about money, man, and we know that the NBA is trying to make up. We know as well that they're trying to get back to a sense of normalcy. So, I said that to say this. I know why they did it, and I get it on the financial side and on getting back to normalcy. But on the side of protecting your product, and your players and letting them have a voice and see what they think, about the matter, I think they kind of failed on that end. So I know why, I get it, but I still think it should have been lengthened. You get it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I still think it should have been lengthened. It should have.
And I mean, to be fair, the season's going to wrap up roughly mid-July. So, I mean, going forward, I don't think we're going to have this issue. So, I don't know, but going forward, I would think that we're not going to have this issue. Of course, the commissioner could look at this and say, hey, this is the perfect time to add more games, like the play-in tournament. And, it's all about money. That's what we're seeing in the NFL. And no fan is complaining, but you do also have to take yourself out of that fan aspect and kind of think about this. You're adding games to a professional athlete that, for lack of a better term, it's like a car. You do have to give that car rest. You have to give it regular maintenance and so on and so forth for it to keep performing at a high level. Whereas, if we see these games going more and more on the uptick, we may see performance drop quite a bit.
Yeah, man, that's a part of it. It's, a lot of things these athletes do, Mike, it's not normal for the body. It's not normal for a running back to be in a car accident every 45 seconds, which he is because he's in a major collision. It's not normal for a wide receiver to go across the middle in the NFL at 35, 40 miles an hour and come to a complete stop when he hits a brick wall, which is a strong safety. Our bodies are made to do that. So with that being said, man, you have to do everything possible to protect your product, which is your players. You have to. That means, if anything, they should be cutting a game and cutting a preseason game. But like you say, man, it's about the product on the field, which the owners want to sell, and it's about money.
Well, and it's crazy. Like, there for a while after we first discovered CTE and it first became prevalent and we started talking about it, the NFL was all about player safety and no hits to the head, yada, yada, yada. And not to say that that's gone away because, penalties are getting more and more stringent and hard to decipher. But, adding more games to the NBA season. It seems like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth when you do things like that.
Mike, you know what? It'll continue to go upward. You know,
Oh, yeah.
They'll never. I mean, you know, you may see an instance where a team leaves a city, but lo and behold, they'll be, you know, resurfacing in another city.
Right.
You know, so they're not about losing teams. They're about gaining more teams, gaining more revenue, you know, selling their league, selling their product, and becoming more of a worldwide and household name. So we get that part of it, man. But you cannot sacrifice the ones that are there now. You know, Mike, it's kind of like, if I've been with AT&T 8 years, I'm not going to get the deal that this guy's going to get that's coming in the door. You know, take care of me, man. I've been here. Take care of your people, man. Take care of them, because that's what make you tick. But we know the name of the game, you know. It's about how much money I can make.
Exactly. So all in all, after, you know, all of this talk, what's your thoughts? Do you agree with LeBron that, you know, the league needs to wake up and they need to fix this issue? Or do you think that it's something that LeBron's blowing up and it's not really as big a deal as what he's making?
I agree with LeBron, man. You know, I don't think it's so much personal, because he was definitely hurt all year. You know, definitely due to the shortened off season, and that, you know, our beloved Lakers didn't do much in the playoffs, but, you know, you couldn't expect much, you know, with the rash of injuries. So I think LeBron has a legitimate argument, if you will. But at the same time, Mike, you know, half the people going to say, yeah, and half the people going to say he's whining, he's upset, and he's butthurt because the Lakers didn't do nothing.
Just dribble the ball.
You know, so it don't matter what the man says, he's going to be ridiculed. But, you know, to answer your question, yeah, I understand where he's coming from, because if he was saying me, okay, I get it.
Exactly.
It's not all about you, but he didn't. He said the league. He said the players. He said your best players. He said your product.
The fans.
I mean, it puts people in the seats, Mike, and it sends viewership out the roof. You know, if people aren't watching, they're not making money. If people aren't buying tickets, they're not making money. So,
completely agree with you, brother. Okay, so this next one, we're going to get a little bit more butthurt on. The road to Omaha, and the Hogs ran into a brick wall, so to speak, right before Omaha. But we'll get into that right after this. The best defensive plays from the Super Regionals.
No balls, 2 strikes. Laces one into left, and what a catch! Austin Bell! Like they've done down the stretch here these last few weeks. He bunts it. Stevens flips it to the plate. Oh, what a play! Back up the middle, behind second, spinning. Jacob Gonzalez throws him out at first.
A real warning sign for me.
Brampton lays down a bunt with some backspin. Tough play, and the throw to first in time. Good job by Parker Kelly. They do move Troy down to second with 2 down.
Hits that one out to left center. Long run for Rowdy Jordan. What a catch! Oh my goodness, what a catch!
As did I. You know, normally you would see maybe one of those, but 2 and back-to-back.
Just strut your stuff. Did he catch that? No way! Oh, it is just back-to-back SportsCenter top 10 highlights. Chris Newell, tip your cap. Just robbing a home run from Andre Sosa.
Swings, but that one, it's away from the catcher Huff. He's going to have to throw to first. Oh, what a play at first by Nick Rooser. He held the bag. And first base umpire Kevin Sweeney said he stayed on the bag.
We did not expect to see him warming up today. 99 pitches in the win in game 1. It's hit in the air and hard to right center field, leaping and making the catch. What a play by Matt Goodhart.
No freshman starting today. That is gloved at short.
Okay, so some of the top defensive plays from the Super Regional right there, and go ahead and get it out of the way. Let's address the elephant in the room. The Arkansas Razorbacks fall 2-1 to the NC State Wolfpack. Got to give them credit. NC State had a hell of a game plan coming in. I look at it as this. I think Arkansas got a little confident. I think Arkansas got a little too confident. They started, as Nick Saban would say, they started drinking some of the rat poison. And I think that's what ended up catching them. We'll start out.
Well, first of all, you got to congratulate the team that beat them. I mean,
Absolutely.
They were better at least 2 games. So, despite being better, 30-something, 11 or 12, but it's highly disappointing because that team had more aspirations. It definitely was good enough to sit there and win it. So, not to take away from the players, very grateful for the players and some of the great things they accomplished. Definitely appreciate. They did a lot of first in school history, so we can't take that from them. But we got to admit, man, it's a sour taste in your mouth right now to punch the good. It's just disappointing, man, because you really felt that this team would go wide and wire, and to lose it in the fashion that they did it's heartbreaking. But with that being said, everybody's good when you get to that point, so it's no room for error. So just lost to a team that was better 2 days, no matter what happened, no matter who gave a what long run or.
You're absolutely right about that, Aaron. I'll let you loose because I know you've been waiting to bust on Dave Van Horn and the decisions he made. Let's give us your thoughts on why the Hogs fell to NC State 1 game shy of Omaha.
I'm sorry, guys. 1 second.
Oh, you're fine.
Oh my God. Aaron, you'll be okay, baby.
Aaron on the road here, traveling again this week. Okay, Aaron, you ready?
Yeah. I'm not gonna bust on Dave Van Horn because I think I did that enough already. He made a couple of decisions I didn't agree with, but he's getting.
It happens,
baby. There's nothing I can do right this second, baby. Let me take care of this, and I'll jump back on.
Okay, right on. Well, that leaves us with Vanderbilt, Arizona, Stanford, NC State, Texas, Tennessee, Mississippi State, and Virginia. Looking at this field, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. First off, I want to address NC State is not going to be an easy out for anybody within the College World Series by any stretch of the imagination. And that's something that it needs to be addressed. I mean, there we go, Peter. Okay, that's something that needs to be addressed, though. What I was saying, NC State's not going to be an easy out for anybody. At this point, we're in Omaha. This is the nitty-gritty. This is the best of the best. NC State may kind of be that Cinderella here.
It could be. I mean, it's a good team. So, it's really about who's hot and who's playing, clicking on all cylinders. It's not always the best team. It's the hottest team. Now, that doesn't mean everybody isn't good. Isn't good. So, that's neither here or there. But at the same time, man, there's a lot of good teams in Omaha. You go in there flat, you're going home. You go in there hot, you got a chance to get to the championship series.
So, I mean, out of the teams I mentioned, what are you thinking as far as possibly? I mean, I know we've talked about Texas being potential to go into the finals and win it all. Vanderbilt, obviously, going to be a tough out for anybody. Even Tennessee. And, you know, you look at it, every team reset to 0 losses. It's going to be tough to handicap this one. I'm going to say probably out of the teams left, I'll probably take Vandy. I think Vandy may be able to pull this one off.
Yeah, you got, Kumar Rocker and that lighter kid at the top of the order. That's going to be a tough feat.
Mm-hmm.
You got to bring pitching to Omaha, such a big party. So, yeah, they got just as good a chance as anybody, man. So, it's to be seen, Mike. I'm going to be honest with you. I tuned completely out after that last out.
Hey, I'm not going to lie. I've been with you on this. I didn't know that a lot of these teams have finally advanced.
I didn't even know who made it. I was just aware that, Ole Miss didn't make it. I guess Mississippi State didn't make it. I don't know. But,
Mississippi State did make it.
Okay. See, I don't even know who's in it. I'm bitter from the standpoint, not hating on the teams that made it because they deserved it. And
right.
They worked for it and earned it, But just the number one team all season long didn't get to Omaha.
Exactly. One game shy. Like, that's even more heartbreaking.
And to understand that a team that you outscored, 21, 6, 27, 3, 30 to what? 2.
Yeah.
3, 6. 11 points. So 30. That's
it hurts. It hurts. I think this one stings more than getting one out away. I think this one stings more than getting one out away, and I'll be honest about that. That one still stings, and we still talk about, that one out we were away from a national championship. But, man, this one hurts. As far as anything else goes, Texas is going to be great. I think Stanford will be out pretty quick. Arizona, I don't have much faith in. So, yeah, I'm pretty much down to Vandy, NC State, Tennessee, Texas, maybe Mississippi State as far as that goes. But we will go ahead and move on here to the 2021 NBA playoffs as they continue to go on. And we have some highlights from House of Highlights on YouTube.
Chris Paul. There are a lot of Suns fans here, by the way, folks. Yes. There are a ton of Phoenix Suns fans.
Hey, they travel well.
They do.
That's crazy.
What about that, Chris? What do you think of all those fans up there?
Man, that's sick. That's sick. We ran out for warm-ups. It felt like a home game. Yeah, I ain't been on a team like this to travel like this. That's crazy.
We're going to pass the baton over to Chris Haynes, but from Reggie and I, we want to congratulate you. You gave us a thrill tonight in every performance. Chris Haynes, take it away.
Chris, you got this team to the Western Conference Finals. How difficult was it to get this game when that team's identity suddenly changed once the Joker went out?
Man, God is good. I tell you, man. It's a tough team over there. With Joker, without him, they well coached, they play hard, they compete. And we knew once Joker went out, that was just going to open the door for a lot of other guys. So we just tried to stay the course.
Over these last couple of games, offensively, you took it up to another notch, and particularly with that mid-range game. How important is the mid-range game still in the game of basketball?
It's important to me. Some years ago, when I played with the Clippers, the whole league went to this drop defense. You know what I mean? And I was like, if that's what y'all going to give up, I'm going to try to perfect it. But it's not about that. I'm so grateful to my family, my team. A couple years ago, they was writing me off. You can't do this, and this ain't about me. It's about us. Show you what you can do when you come together as a team. We got a great team over there, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of it.
You're going to await the winner between the Clippers and the Jazz, but in the meantime, CP, What are the expectations of this team? What is the ceiling of this team this season?
We're just going to keep playing hard. You know, you never know what the future holds. We're going to keep playing hard. Now we're going to get some rest, some much-needed rest. But it's special, man. And these fans, we thank y'all so much, man. Seriously. Got my moms and pops here, my older brother. It's all love.
All good.
Appreciate you, Chris. Thank you, dog.
That's great. That's absolutely fantastic and well-deserved there by CP3. And the love and adoration he is getting from these Suns fans and these Nuggets fans that have remained here.
Wonderful scene. Paul to see relatives, family, and fans.
They did. They wrote him off. They wrote him off. He's done. He should retire. He's lost a step. And what has he done? He has changed what people perceive the Phoenix Suns to be, a perennial loser. Now they're in the conference finals.
How could he possibly be fifth in MVP voting? There's Jokic. He was ejected late in the third. The MVP named last week with hugs for his teammates.
Appreciate you getting me right. You got me right.
Our producer tonight, Jeff.
So, I mean, elephant in the room, obviously, we can't like the Phoenix Suns because they eliminated our Los Angeles Lakers, Pettis. But, man, it's hard not to love that. You know, it's going back to what we talked about earlier, you hate it for them. But let's start out with the Western Conference end of things. Not only did we see Phoenix sweep Denver in the semis last night, and over the past week, we have seen an absolute collapse of the Utah Jazz. Absolute collapse that the Jazz has had here over the past week. And, you know, the Jazz has been a problem here recently for, you know, collapsing like this. And now we're to the Phoenix Suns, who advanced to the NBA, or excuse me, to the Western Conference Finals along with the Los Angeles Clippers. Let's talk about that series a little bit. Without Chris Paul, this is going to be a tough series for the Phoenix Suns, and they're going against a team that was really on the brink of elimination a week ago.
Yeah, but guys, you know what? I think the odds are kind of even if Kawhi doesn't come back.
True.
So it kind of evens the odds a little bit. So it gives Phoenix a puncher's chance. You depend on playoff P, you know, carrying the team, which he's very, very capable. Don't get me wrong. Phoenix is a real hungry team, and they got a young guy by the name of Devin Booker over there that's thirsty. So it's to be seen. I think it kind of evens the odds. What y'all think?
I can guarantee you Devin Booker is ready to go for this Western Conference Finals because, let's be honest, everything in my mind has to run through Devin Booker in this Final Four to have a successful appearance. Aaron, what are you thinking about the Western Conference Finals and the Jazz collapse, really?
That was just ridiculously bad. I mean, how do you blow a 26-point lead? They didn't even have Kawhi Leonard playing.
Right.
So that was just but you two cannot like the Suns. I understand that, but I do. I like the Suns, and I picked them the whole playoff. I'm not going to back off now. I still thinking on my part because we don't really know. But you know, I'm still picking the Suns. Probably.
Uh-oh, I think we may have lost your audio there, Aaron. So, I mean, Aaron's picking the Suns in this series. You make a good point. Kawhi Leonard is another one that is out in this series, just like Chris Paul. It's kind of evening things up in my mind. The Suns are hot.
Yeah.
Like, when I say that the Suns are the hottest team in the NBA right now, and that's over your Brooklyn Nets. That's over your 76ers, your Atlanta Hawks. there is no team hotter right now than the Phoenix Suns. And if they can keep the momentum and not allow the Chris Paul situation to affect them, I believe the Phoenix Suns will make a finals appearance. What about you?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're the favorite right now from the standpoint. This kid, Chris Paul, we told he gets some time to heal up, being on the COVID protocol. So we know he's coming back. It's just when can they sustain until he makes, until he makes it back on the court? I think they can. I mean, they got a complete team, man. So I would look out for Phoenix.
Exactly. I would not bet against Phoenix right now. So on the other side, we have the Philadelphia 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks. We're going to Game 7. Philadelphia last night managed to pull off a victory in Game 6. After we really, honestly, all week we had wrote them off after the Atlanta Hawks came back and won that game earlier in the week. I'll say this. I still think the Hawks win this series. I think the Hawks still have the momentum. I don't think last night halted that momentum. I still say that the Atlanta Hawks are going to the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll start with you, Dennis.
Mike, you know what? They got a kid by the name of Trae Young. I like him a lot. He's a big-time competitor. A number one scorer in the NBA, and just a feisty, in your face, you're not gonna show me up type player, man. I mean, he's a player that shows up when the lights come on, and you like that in him. So I just see Atlanta. It just seemed like they had an edge the whole series. I give Atlanta, kind of edge on this one just because of Trae Young, because of the young talent. And let's face it, guys, Atlanta's a hungry team. Not to take nothing from Philadelphia, but you just don't know what you're gonna get from Embiid, or even Ben Simmons for that matter. He's doing more wrestling than playing. Now he's a great player when he wants to be, but I'm gonna go with Atlanta on this one, man. Just from sure being, hunger and wanting to get to the next level.
Exactly. Aaron, who you got, Atlanta or Philly in the Game 7?
I got Atlanta, and mostly just because I feel like they're a team that has to play from behind. Like, they can't be front runners. They took a 3-2 lead, and they went home. They didn't know how to. It's like they didn't know how to handle being up 3-2.
Yeah,
they didn't know how to handle putting elimination away. But now that their backs are against the wall again, like they went to Philly series tied 2-2, their backs were against the wall. They were in trouble. They knew it. So they came out and they played. They made that incredible comeback, and they got once they took a 3-2 lead. It's like they just at that point they didn't know how to put a team away. So now it's both teams got their backs against the wall, and I just don't trust Philadelphia at all. They should have won this series 2 games ago. I mean, I just don't trust Philadelphia.
I would agree with that statement. Okay, and on the other side, Brooklyn is in a dogfight with the Milwaukee Bucks, series tied 3-3. Neither of us thought that Milwaukee would get this far. None of us, thought that Milwaukee would get this far. I'm going to have to go with Brooklyn in this one. I think Brooklyn still has the better talent overall, but I wouldn't be surprised if Milwaukee manages to pull out the victory.
What?
I'm gonna go with the Bucks, man.
You're gonna go with the Bucks? Okay.
I'm gonna go with the Bucks from the standpoint. I feel like they got a little bit of momentum. Brooklyn is like a wounded animal right now, man. You gotta pounce when you can.
Very true.
KD's a beast. If you notice, KD gonna have to score 35 to 50 for him to win. So I think the Bucks has a chance. If you got the reigning MVP the last 2 out of 3 years, and won Defensive Player of the Year, and he can't get over this hump, can you call that a bust, or can you call that hey, it's time.
It's absolutely.
I'm gonna say Giannis rises to the occasion and gets to the NBA final.
Exactly. Aaron, what do you think about this series? Milwaukee or Brooklyn? Aaron, can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry. I couldn't cut out for a second.
You're fine. Milwaukee or Brooklyn?
I'm going with. I want to go with Atlanta because I would just love to see Atlanta and Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference Finals. Just if nothing else, because it would drive ESPN crazy.
Right.
But I'm going with Brooklyn.
Okay.
What, Spencer?
So we do have two Brooklyn picks here. So before we move on topics here, or actually before we go to our commercial break here, I want to ask you, though, with both of these series in the semis going to a Game 7, will that do you think that stretches and gives the Western Conference team an advantage heading into the finals? I mean, I would have to say it doesn't hurt for sure.
Well, if not, Mike, we contradicted ourselves the whole entire show because we just talked about how imperative rest was to to performance and just being available, being on the court, and being able to push through a real tough, grinded out type series in the playoffs. So any rest is good rest. What did Chris Paul say when we watched that clip? Man, we're gonna get some much needed rest. So yeah, any competitive edge, Mike, anything. A couple extra days of rest, anything helps.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more Natural State Sports Podcast after this. Each and every Monday night, join the American Idiots podcast for a fresh look at the top headlines that are currently dividing our country. It's the American Idiots podcast only on Podcast Network 49. Every Sunday night at 8, join Michael Carnahan and Lisa O'Brien for the Clear and Convincing Show, where we take the most important cases in our country's history and we examine them not from the court of public opinion, but from the court's perspective. It's the Clear and Convincing Show with Michael Carnahan and Lisa O'Brien. Every Saturday afternoon from 2 to 4, join the Natural State Sports Podcast with Michael Carnahan, Aaron, and Mike Pettis, where we take the top headlines in all of sports and we debate them for you, the fan. It's the Natural State Sports Podcast only on Podcast Network 49.
I've been champion for a long time, Tony, simply because I'm the best there is. I got more more women waiting for me in that hallway, quivering, shaking, having conniptions than you met in the last 5 years. You know why? Because I just happen to be Slick Rick.
Join Michael and Aaron each week as they break down the most influential and sometimes downright hilarious pay-per-views in professional wrestling history. It's the Wrestling Wrap-Up Show, only for you on Podcast Network 49. It has never been any easier to keep up with all of your favorite Podcast Network 49 shows. If you're a fan of just listening along, you can always go to iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your favorite podcasts and subscribe. If you're more of a visual listener to our shows, go ahead and check out our Facebook and YouTube lives, or you can always go in and check out the archived content. Once again, it's never been easier to keep up with Podcast Network 49.
He's trying to get our
I'm addicted to the truth. It's a dangerous love affair. Can't be scared when it goes down. Got a problem? Tell me now. Only thing that's on my mind is to go on this town tonight.
It's now time for the Natural State Sports Podcast with Michael Carnahan, Aaron, and Mike Pettis, where we take the biggest sports headlines across the spectrum that is sports, and we break it down for you, the fan. It's coming at you in just a moment.
Dave Roberts. I'm talking 5,6,0 back to running circles round niggas, now we squared up. Hold up.
Life's a game, but it's not fair.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, live here on Podcast Network 49. And of course, if you're listening on iTunes and all that good stuff. But we have a few more topics to go through. And right now, I want to go over this one. I sent you the story last night. Cole Beasley is taking a strong stance against COVID-19 and the COVID-19 vaccination. And we have a story from WGRZ-TV.
Good evening. We have said repeatedly that the player vaccination issue was going to be a contentious one of the National Football League. Last night, near the top of this newscast, we outlined the vast protocols that are very different for vaccinated versus non-vaccinated players that the NFL and the Players Association have agreed to. And that did not take long to generate some reaction, some strong reaction in the Buffalo locker room. We're talking about Bills receiver Cole Beasley, who took to Twitter earlier today, calling the NFLPA, the Players Association, a, quote, joke, questioning whether they're representing players properly, criticizing the protocols requiring non-vaccinated players to stay in the hotel, for example, on the road, among other restrictions, accusing the NFL of taking this stance to make the most money it possibly can. And this continues Beasley's defense of non-vaccinated players. And of course, quarterback Josh Allen has questioned whether or not he'd be vaccinated. Get ready to hear a whole heck of a lot more of this as training camp approaches.
Okay, so Cole Beasley has not only, he didn't really get into the actual response, but Cole Beasley came out. He said he wants to live my one life like I want regardless. I will be doing what I do. I will be out in public. If you're scared of me, then steer clear or get vaccinated. I may die of COVID, but I'd rather die actually living. I'm not going to take meds for a leg that isn't broken. I'd rather take my chances with COVID and build up my immunity that way. I'll play for free this year to live life how I've lived it from day one. If I'm forced to retirement, then so be it. Quite strong words there from Cole Beasley on the COVID-19 vaccination. Of course, the NFL did release their upcoming season's COVID regulations and all of that information this week for players that are vaccinated and are not vaccinated. We'll start with you, Pettis. What is your thoughts on the Cole Beasley vaccination stuff?
I don't blame that man. That's his natural born right, to feel that way and not be subjected to having to, put something in his body that he don't know much about. That's his choice. So you have to respect that. And my whole problem with it is, of course, you're going to have players in the league that are vaccinated and players that are not. The league has to be careful not to alienate those who are not vaccinated. And that's what they're doing. This ain't no separate but equal type shit, man. So you have to be careful. You have to do the best you can to keep everything in-house. And, Mike, protect the what?
Protect the shield.
You're not protecting the shield when you have division within the NFL with any issue. I know it's a very touchy subject, and it's not, it's not 1 + 1 is 2. I get that. But at the same time, the NFL has been around long enough and has been through a lot of things to understand that you have to keep all the players as one and on the same page as one united front. Or you're going to have problems like this because this could extend to the locker room.
I wouldn't disagree with what you're saying by any stretch of the imagination, but here's my thing. Naturally, you do have to have a separation, so to speak, between players that are vaccinated and players that aren't vaccinated. Right. It's just trying to keep people safe. Right. I don't think that the NFL is going out targeting these players that aren't vaccinated. But there does have to be that separation, in my opinion.
But Mike, when you go in Walmart, it's not a line for the vaccinated people and the unvaccinated people, and they're not checking at the door saying, "Hey, where's your card? Do you got a mask? How long you been vaccinated? Are you gonna get vaccinated?"
Right.
So I'm just saying, man. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be naturally be division because it has to be from the standpoint. You may need to wear a mask. We recommend change your language. Don't be so forceful. I just think they could have did it in a better way and did it underneath the shield. Kind of did it more in-house, if you will, if that makes sense. But at the same time, yeah, Mike, it's not perfect. It's not going to be nothing that's easy to figure out. But at the same time, they had to do as much as they could not to alienate the players. Even if they came out with something saying, look, we understand if you don't do it, we're going to do the best we can to make this as normal for you as possible and do all the things in our measures to make it comfortable for players that are vaccinated and players that are not vaccinated. But that's your natural right. Everybody don't get the flu shot, Mike.
You're right.
The flu don't kill more people than coronavirus. Now, not at one particular time. And not, bundled in a 2.5-year span, no. But I'm just saying, bro. So they know better than that. Just got to be careful for situations like this. Now, what if all your top quarterbacks came out and said, "I'm not getting vaccinated, and since you're alienating us, we're not playing this year"? Come on, man.
Well, and that's actually interesting. You do bring up a good point. Is Josh Allen, who is one of the top quarterbacks in the league.
Oh yeah.
They just said that he was unsure if he's going to get vaccinated. Here's the thing, though. So the stuff that I saw for vaccinated players versus unvaccinated players, so it's things like you can't eat in the chow hall with everybody else. You have to grab and go. You can't leave the team hotel when you're at away games. Things like that limits your exposure to COVID.
Okay.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. The question is, what's the punishment? Are we talking suspension or are we talking monetary? Because if we're talking suspension, I could see it. If we suspend you for one game because you may expose everybody else to COVID, that makes sense. If we're talking you're going to get fined hundreds of thousands of dollars for not getting this vaccine.
No, I don't think that's ridiculous. Yeah, I don't see that. It has to be some sort of, penalty or, deterrent from doing it, from breaking the rules, if you will. But I doubt it's going to just,
right.
It's in a pocket that tough. That's just too much. We certainly hope not. I mean, that's going to cause more issues.
Exactly.
You're going to create, the monster in the room, man. It's going to be this COVID situation. It's going to be the division between the players and killing my pocket when I don't,
Exactly.
So we'll see. They need that, but you know what? They got a chance to get in front of it now, so they better.
And I'll give them credit. The NFL is kind of in a no-win situation. Whether you're going to get attacked, whether you keep strong on COVID or whether you don't, you're going to get attacked. But it's about limiting, like you said, and protecting the shield as much as possible in this case. And I think that a suspension rather than monetary is a little bit more realistic, because you suspend somebody, you can take the high ground of, I'm trying to limit his ability to expose people if he was exposed. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Saying that you're going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars off of them for just not going and getting the vaccine basically makes no sense to me.
Well, it's like, it's kind of one of them things where, even if you get suspended, you're still going to get fined.
True. You are still going to lose revenue if you get suspended. That's a good point.
If someone push you, in the lake, whether you can swim or not, you still going to get wet, right?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. So, it's just, you just limit the damage, man. And that's all everybody's trying to do. And I get it, but this just could have been done in a better way.
So before we move on, the last thing that caught me as interesting in that piece was the fact that he called the NFLPA a joke. What? I don't know how wise it is to go after a union that you're a part of, and oh man, that one seems a little bit crazy to me.
Yeah, he took a shot at him, man, but he voiced his opinion and his personal feeling. I guess he's entitled to that, but all the stuff that we're I guess sometimes all the things we say, whether opinionated or not, aren't right or shouldn't be voiced at that time, or could be voiced in,
absolutely
a different way or a different arena or, a different tone,
Very true. Very true.
It's just one of them things. I think he was just really angry, man,
Yeah, it's one of those situations where it's one of those unavoidable situations. You knew this was going to end up happening, and it's happened.
He's candid about it. We can say that.
Yeah, he definitely didn't hold back. Okay. Moving on to the Kemba Walker trade. This one shook my world a little bit. Boston to Oklahoma City, and we have a story from ESPN on it.
So much good basketball to talk about tonight, but the breaking news today is all about a big trade. As we mentioned moments ago, and here with all the details, the man who broke the news, senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski, is joining us now. So, Woj, Brad Stevens makes his first big move as the Celtics president of basketball operations. What are the details of this trade, and where does it leave both teams?
Well, Hannah, Kemba Walker is on his way to the Oklahoma City Thunder, along with the 16th overall pick in the July draft. For Al Horford, 2023 second-round pick from the Thunder. And ultimately, for Brad Stevens in Boston, a chance to get off of the 2 years, $73 million owed Kemba Walker. I think that salary, looked at against what his availability has been with some of the knee injuries and where he is physically. You don't trade Kemba Walker because of his talent or his character or his leadership. It's looking at the way that his contract impacted their cap. And now the Thunder, 3 first-round picks in this July draft and the potential to have 2 top 5 picks. The Thunder continue to gather up assets as they head into the rebuild.
As we look at pictures here of Brad Stevens as the head coach and that trio that the Celtics put together with Kemba Walker and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and the really relative disappointment for a trio of stars that they felt could potentially take them all the way to contend for a championship. How difficult a move was this for the Celtics to move on from that?
Well, certainly because of the person that Kemba Walker is and how they feel about him. And listen, when you sign a big player in free agency like they did with Walker after Kyrie Irving's departure, typically you don't like to have to trade that player. It makes it harder the next time you're in free agency for a player to know that he's going to be with you and that you're not going to move on from him. But I think certainly physically the questions about Kemba right now, he'll go to Oklahoma City, and they've had success there. With whether it was Chris Paul, whether it was Al Horford himself, who goes back to Boston, Carmelo Anthony, and allowing players to get their value back up and then helping them move on to a contender, which is certainly where Kemba Walker, of course, would love to end up again. And, and Al Horford back in Boston, he's thrilled with this, I'm told. And, he gives Boston another, veteran presence in the middle, to anchor a defense that really fell off last season.
Yeah, you can imagine how happy he is to be going back there. Kemba, who knows, maybe this is just a stopover, as you say, in OKC, as, they'll really look at this draft class and try to build from there this year. Woj. Oh, and they have to hire a head coach, the Celtics, too. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Woj, we appreciate you, as always. Thank you.
NBA analyst Kendrick Perkins joining us now. Hey,
So let's talk about this a little bit with this trade. So first off, let's talk about the winners and losers. In my mind, Oklahoma City is a winner, even though they're heading into rebuild. The loser in this mind, the big loser in my mind, Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker is going to take the last few prime years that he has, and he's going to be in Oklahoma City, who's in a rebuild. Kemba might as well have just kissed his title shot goodbye, I think.
Man, I mean, like they said, I think he's trying to kind of get his value back up, show teams he can be healthy, get back to his normal self, if you will, in Oklahoma City, and raise his stock, and eventually get traded to a contender, then get another big contract. So it's to be seen. I just don't understand Boston. And I guess I'm supposed to from an LA standpoint. But first of all, you trade Kemba Walker to get Al Horford back. Didn't you just get rid of Al Horford 2.5 seasons?
Right, to the Sixers.
What are y'all? I just don't understand their logic. But at the same time, yeah. I guess Oklahoma City wins.
I mean, Oklahoma City wins. Boston loses. Kemba loses. This is a terrible trade for me, for anybody but Oklahoma City, in my opinion. Aaron?
I don't get it.
Me neither.
I really don't know a whole lot about it. I haven't really. I heard about it the other day, but Kemba Walker, and if you're the Thunder, yeah, take him, absolutely take him. But I don't see why the Celtics got rid of him, to be honest with you.
Right, exactly. It makes no sense for the Celtics to have gotten rid of Kemba Walker.
Now, Mike. Now the shedding the $73 million. That's the only thing I can.
That's the big elephant in the room, though. You do shave that $73 million off of your cap, but Ugh.
If they're gonna cost you,
Exactly.
wins, I don't know.
I mean, is Boston saying, hey, is Brad Stevens saying, okay, now it's time to blow this sucker up and we're going to rebuild in my image? Like, I don't know what Brad Stevens is thinking here as the new, and this is his first job as a GM. Like, and your first move is to get rid of Kemba Walker. Woo! I mean, once again,
it's a tough decision, but we'll see how it pans out.
I definitely feel for Kemba in this case for sure. For sure, I feel for Kemba.
They act like he wants to go to Oklahoma City. I don't see that.
Right, exactly. I mean, like you said, Kemba can turn around and use this to show that he's still a high-level player. But other than that, there's really not much upside for Kemba Walker going to the Thunder. Like I said, he can kiss his title prospects goodbye.
Hopefully he can get healthy, Mike, and up his value in the stock. Hopefully. If he can't get healthy, he in trouble.
Exactly. Okay, gentlemen, tonight, a first in boxing. We've been seeing this crossover quite a bit between MMA and boxing here recently. We have the weigh-ins from Fight Hub TV, but Anderson Silva is going to take on Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
This is 6-time IFBB Bikini Pro Champion Brina Martinez, and I take ZMA5 to make sure that I get the zinc, magnesium, and vitamin B6 needed to keep my immune system healthy and snap strong.
He stands with a professional record of 52 victories against 5 losses, 34 of those big wins by the fast way of knockout. Representing his hometown, representando a su ciudad natal, Culiacán, Sinaloa. Big round of applause for the former middleweight champion of the world, el ex campeón mundial, peso medio del CMB, Julio César Chávez Jr. 184.4 libras, 184.4 pounds for the former world champion, Julio César Chávez Jr. And now to the stage. Ahora recibamos como se merece a esta leyenda de las artes marciales mixtas. Él es originario de Sao Paulo, Brasil. Actualmente radica en la ciudad de Curitiba, Paraná. No tiene mucho, o sea, es una gran estrella, una superestrella, es el Chávez en Brasil. Él cuenta con un récord de una victoria, una derrota y un knockout. Let's bring him to the stage. The living legend for MMA, Anderson, the Spider Silva. Senhoras e senhores, apresentando a lenda brasileira e mundial, Anderson, the Spider Silva. Está en peso para el día de mañana. We have a fight. ¡Hay tiro! Ahora los queremos para la foto. Por favor, el face-off, please. Ahí los tienen. El ex campeón mundial peso medio del CMB y el ex campeón.
Okay, here we go. I mean, number one, I want to start off with this. Number one, for this to be two legends in combat sports, they've done a terrible job of promoting this. This wasn't even on my radar till yesterday that this fight was happening tonight. So let's just talk about the terrible promotion that they've done on this. Like, wow, this is bad. Like, I didn't know that last night. Pettis?
I think it's. I guess, man. Is it for money or for? I mean, I know they got money. I don't see the attraction to it. What makes this fight so attractive?
I mean, I'm interested to see how Anderson does in boxing without the MMA rules. Aaron, any interest for you as far as seeing the MMA, the former MMA great, take on Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.? I think Aaron may have froze there. I mean, I would agree, though. Yeah, it's a problem. Like, there's no stakes. There's no, like...
They didn't even market the fight. I mean, they didn't even advertise it. They probably marketed it, but they didn't advertise it.
Chavez Jr. missed weight. I do know that. So he had to forfeit $100,000 of his purse for missing weight. But, I mean, looking at this... Anderson Silva has fought boxing before. He's 1-1 right now in boxing. Julio Cesar Chavez is 52-5. I don't know. Like, I want to say Anderson Silva is going to go in there and do well.
I'm gonna go with Junior, man.
I would agree. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. has got to have the advantage in this. I don't know what he gains by defeating Anderson Silva.
I don't either, man. I'm trying to figure out what's the attraction and what's so good about the fight. I mean, because they're legends, okay. It's something to watch, but it's just
10 years ago, maybe.
TV. If
10 years ago,
Mike, if you missed it, would you be upset?
No, and especially not for the $40 price tag they're charging.
Oh, okay, so it's definitely a not watch.
Yeah, exactly. You put that on ESPN for free, and I'll be cool watching it. But 10 years ago, maybe, with Anderson crossing over into boxing. Anderson now has a suspect chin, at best. I don't see anything going well in this fight.
I think he's gonna put him to sleep.
Oh man, yeah, it's gonna be rough. And then also their other selling point is Chavez Sr., of course, who has been around for God knows since the dinosaurs have walked the earth.
Right.
Tonight's gonna be his last fight, so that's their other big selling point.
Hold on, he's fighting tonight too?
He's fighting tonight too.
At 61. How old is he, Mike?
Oh Lord.
Man, get out of here, dude.
Cesar Chavez. There we go. Hold on.
Get out of here, dude.
Let me see. He is 58 years old, and tonight he is fighting. It doesn't say, but he's fighting tonight. He's fighting in an exhibition. I know that for sure.
So him and his son fighting?
Yes. Yeah.
That's kind of cool, I guess.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
I hope they both don't get knocked out.
Right?
I doubt that. I think they'll both probably win.
They can get matching hotel rooms if they do, or hospital rooms if they do. But I mean, laughing about this, obviously there's a hell of a purse because Chavez Jr.'s forfeiting $100,000 of his. But, whew, Anderson, what are you thinking, brother?
Right.
Just
what
go
is
on,
the purse, Mike?
Just go on and enjoy those
UFC
earnings.
What is the purse?
I don't know, to tell you the truth. That's how little I know about this fight.
I hope it's a meal ticket.
At least. Shit, at this point, it may be a ticket to the nearest buffet there in Mexico. Because that's where they're hosting it. They're not even hosting it in like Mexico City. They're hosting it in one of the small cities in Mexico. Like, that's how far Anderson Silva has fallen. Let's be honest here. But yeah, this has been terrible fight promotion since the beginning, and I think you're right. Cesar Chavez Jr. will end up coming out victorious in this one.
He might eat him up.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Final one, and this one's more of a debate topic for us. Who will be the surprise NFL team for this season? The team that comes out and shocks us all with how good they are because we're thinking they're going to be terrible. And I've got a team in mind. We'll probably end up throwing out a couple, but I'm going to start with Washington football team. They came out of nowhere to make the playoffs. I understand they won a terrible NFC East and what have you. But Washington football team, if they get their quarterback situation fixed, could be not a bad team.
Yeah, I agree because they got a top 5 defense. That's where it starts.
Exactly.
They got a hard-nosed coach.
But I'll tell you, probably the most surprising team for me this season will be the Chicago Bears. I really think Justin Fields will come out and he'll get a majority of the starts. I think that I've seen a lot of positive. Apparently, Andy Dalton's been working with them after practice to get them ready and everything. I think the Chicago Bears may be the surprise team this season. A lot of people aren't expecting much out of them. This could be an NFC Championship team. Like, Khalil Mack can't be understated.
You can't say nay.
I mean, you've gotten rid of Trubisky, so you've shored that up. I see a lot of good on the table for the Chicago Bears this season. What about you, Pat? Who do you think is going to shock us all?
What's the common denominator between the first team that I mentioned, that you mentioned, I agree with? They got a good defense.
Exactly.
So you have time for your offense to evolve when you got a good defense. You don't expect them to score 28, 30 points a game, which is going to be hard to do in the NFL. So I agree with you in a sense. New York has a good chance of being a surprise team.
Giants or Jets?
No, I'm sorry. You said Washington, right?
Washington, yeah.
Yeah. You said Washington. You said the Bears. I agree. Both have top-notch defenses. Now, I think it will be the New York Football Giants.
Okay.
I think it'll be the New York Football Giants because they got a young quarterback. If they could get Saquon Barkley back healthy, that'll be good. Plus the young weapons they had. You know, they got a suspect defense, but let's face it, the division isn't too much far ahead of them. Now, you got some good teams that are, you know, trying to get back on track, get back from a rash of injuries and counting the COVID deal. But, yeah, I think the Giants will be a surprise team when they go to the AFC. I'm going to say the San Diego Chargers. Sorry, the Los Angeles Chargers. Right?
Yeah, true. No, I mean, that one, the only thing I wonder about with New York is, and it seems like it's not
a surprise team, Mike. We said surprise team.
Daniel Jones is going to have to surprise the hell out of me because I'm not sold on Daniel Jones. I mean, I look at Daniel Jones in the same category I put Mitchell Trubisky.
No, Mike, no, he's better than him. No.
I mean,
because he got walked down and fumbled the ball or whatever. No.
Just because my dude beat out an older than dirt Eli Manning for the starting position doesn't mean much to me.
I think it's a lot of upside to him, man. Come on, Mike. 2 years. He ain't no Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky was just flat, hot garbage in his situation. Maybe he'll be better. Let's give him that. But he wasn't too good in Chicago. So give dude a chance, man. That's supposed to – you're a Pittsburgh fan. Give dude a chance.
I'll give you the Chargers, though. I think Justin Herbert has a chance to be one of the best and most dynamic passers in the league. I think they've got a good defense. They've got a good offense. They did lose Hunter Henry at tight end. Good pickup from New England, by the way. Another one that we haven't mentioned, I'm interested in seeing how good Jacksonville is this season.
Yeah,
Trevor Lawrence,
I want to say Jacksonville too.
that offense.
I got a feeling they'll be a lot improved.
I mean, they got a great defense. What say you, Aaron? Who's going to be the surprise NFC and AFC teams for 2021, you think?
Well, first off, screw both of you for picking the Giants and Redskins.
We said surprise.
So I'll go on, Mike, since you're a Michael, since you're a Steelers fan, I'll say the Cincinnati Bengals. If Joe Burrow can stay upright and stay healthy, I think they got a chance to score some points and beat some teams. I'm not saying a playoff team, but I'm saying 6-7 wins and maybe beat some teams they shouldn't beat.
I mean, I'll go further than that. I will say that if Joe Burrow stays healthy, if they can keep that defense going, they've got a new dynamic receiver, and I believe they got just Chase, correct? Jamar Chase out of LSU. So, I mean, the sky's the limit right now in Cincinnati, in my opinion. So I would agree there. What about NFC, Aaron?
I don't want to go the same teams you did, but I would have to say probably the Bears, just because again I think their defense is pretty good, and I'm a big Justin Fields fan. I liked him in college, so I think he's going to be fine in the NFL. So I would say the Bears because I can't think of anybody else in the NFC. Of course, I think the Cowboys are going to be better, but I'm not going to pick them because they're a team that everybody talks about. But I'll probably say the Bears.
Man, let's talk about that for a second because, I did think about the Cowboys. Here's the thing, and Aaron's probably about to get mad at me. I'm not sold on Dak anymore. After this season, Dak took a step back for me. But here's the thing, it comes down to what do you think caused this collapse last season? Honestly, part of me thinks that it may be Mike McCarthy. That was not a great hire as everybody thinks it was, because if you look at his last few seasons in Green Bay, hell, Aaron Rodgers didn't want him around. So that doesn't give you much as far as the development or continued development of Dak Prescott.
But I gotta ask you, what did Dak do to get you to take a step back? Because he was playing great before he got hurt. He was throwing for 400 or 500 yards a game, 4 or 5 touchdowns a game. He was playing great before the injury happened.
But was he playing great because they were behind, or was he playing you see some quarterbacks that are throwing up massive numbers, but they're playing from behind, so they have to throw up those massive numbers. And that's what I look for.
They weren't that far behind, but they weren't. But the only game they were that far behind in was the Browns. Every other game was close. Every other game was a one or two score game. It's not like they were getting blown out every week. They were in every single game, except for the Browns. Now, the Browns game, he threw for 500 yards, but they were 30 points behind. But the other games, like the Seahawks, they were never down more than a touchdown against the Seahawks. So he was putting up big numbers, but he was doing it in a game that was competitive. So I mean, the only game I can think of is the Browns.
Who do you think shares the blame in Dallas? What do you think caused last season in Dallas? I'll ask you, Aaron.
What?
What caused that?
Well, Dak's injury for one, and for two,
I think injury.
There was a lot of injuries. Even on the defense, Sean Lee was out most of the year. Leighton Vander Esch was out most of the year. Jalen Smith was playing hurt. I mean, he played the whole year, but he was playing injured. So he wasn't up to his capabilities. And then, of course, Dak got hurt, and Zeke missed a couple of games. I mean, the injury bug killed him. But flat out, their defense just wasn't good enough. Well, but I think they've started to address that.
Here's another one that, I kind of want to get your thoughts on as we talk about the Cowboys here. We've said it many times. One of our favorite phrases on this show is the NFL stands for not for long, and especially when it comes to the running back position, I'm not so sure Zeke has many, if any, elite level seasons left in him.
I think he's all right.
Zeke is, as far as I'm concerned, as a diehard Cowboy fan, Zeke can pack up and go back to Ohio. I was done with him. I was pretty much done.
I was not expecting that.
I was pretty much done with him when he packed up and went to Cabo and threw his little temper tantrum because he wasn't getting the money, and then he got the money and he ain't played worth a crap since then. So Zeke, there are plenty of good running backs out there. There are a dime a dozen. You can find somebody else that can run behind this offensive line. Zeke, unless he just proves me wrong this year, he can pack up and go back to Ohio.
I wouldn't disagree. Pettis, do you think Zeke has many?
Man, do that, Mike. Do that. He just needs to refocus and get back on track and get 100% healthy. And he needs a redefined hunger or sense of urgency, if you will. But I don't think his day's behind him, man. But the time ticking because they expect a lot out of Zeke. He got to play a big part. He got to play a big role in their offense this year. They're going to be successful. So we definitely going to see this year.
Very true, very true. Now, this is the good thing about having a team that was undefeated for part of last season. So we don't get to pick on my Steelers because technically they wouldn't be a surprise team. But I will ask you this. One team we didn't mention, Pettis, was your 49ers. Are you not so confident that the 49ers will be back in the playoffs this season, or where are you on the Niners, Pettis?
If the 49ers stay healthy, still toting the top eight, 5 defense in the NFL, they'll be fine. They'll be a playoff team. Now, I'm not gonna say you're gonna ramshack through the NFC because it's tough and that division is tough. But they should be able to get in the playoffs and at least make some noise, give ourselves a chance. Yeah, but see, Mike, you got to stay healthy. We were decimated by more injuries than any team in the history of the NFL last year. And tell me I'm telling a story. All you got to do is pull it up. Decimated. We were down to the third and fourth string in a lot of positions.
Aaron, what do you think about the Niners?
Super Bowl berth. So, the window is definitely closing fast, but it ain't completely closed, brother. Lead it.
Aaron?
That's just being honest.
I think a lot of it just depends on who they start. I mean, is it going to be Jimmy G? Is it going to be Trey Lance? And I think that's going to have a lot to do with how many games they win. Well, I think probably Trey Lance might be the better pick.
That's the question. Do you go ahead and blow up Jimmy G and say, hey, in my mind, the smart move at this point is to let Jimmy go someplace else and get some value while you can out of Jimmy. That's the smart move in my mind, is that you go and get that value out of Jimmy G while you still can. So you're not getting nothing in return. I thought that he was going back to the Patriots, to be honest with you. Now that's not going to happen because they just drafted the Alabama Mac Jones. I don't know who you give Jimmy G to, but I would at least be shopping him at this point.
Keep him around. Let him mentor this kid. An insurance policy and a safety blanket. And hopefully he stays healthy and has a good season and get maximum value for him next season, off season. That's what it's all about because we gave him so much to get Trey Lance.
How quickly do you pull the trigger, though, if Jimmy's struggling, for example?
Well, our offense is predicated off the running game and a lot of deception, a lot of moving around, as you know. It's a lot of eye candy. So if you get that kid in there to understand the concept where you can minimize mistakes, and he's at the same level in camp as Jimmy G, Mike, you know the answer to this question, bro.
You're right. Well, that's pretty much it. We got all of our topics in. Is there anything else you want to cover before we get on out of here, Pettis?
That's it, man. We need to send a big shout out to Kevin Cox for winning
absolutely
Baseball Player of the Year, the Dick Howser Award, the second Arkansas baseball player to do so in the last 10 years. Gotta love it. So small consolation for not making it to Omaha. But that's it, Mike.
Right on. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for Aaron and Mike Pettis, I am Money Mike. We will see you next week at 2 o'clock on Saturday.
Peace.
He's trying to get Irene.
I'm addicted to the thrill.
I'm ready.
It's a dangerous